to address this issue of stealing in schools, and especially in our system, boarding schools for that matter, maybe high school or primary. Where is there so much stealing? I belong to another group where I saw parents complaining about their children, their sons and daughters' clothes being stolen, the uniform being stolen, the calculator being stolen, the pens and the pencils, and the petty stealing that happens in school. And as a stakeholder and as psychologist, I want to address this issue and ask us who are complaining about stealing in schools. You don't want to tell me that children can be taught how to steal in school. Those children who are stealing uniform from the others, those who are stealing money from the others, the pocket money, and the things that they are stealing, they didn't learn stealing from school. And it's only that we don't want to admit that stealing began back home. That child began by taking an apple. That child began by taking a banana when they are told not to take. And then it graduated to taking a coin from your bag or from the shelf where you normally put the money. And you didn't ask. So you meet the money is stolen. And by the way, let me tell you this. Let me give you this story of a child who used to steal from the parents, the mom. And because the father used to be not sober, and they used to use alcohol a lot, so the mother thought it is not the son, it is the dad who was stealing from her. And that is how we cover our children. So the money gets lost today, the money gets lost tomorrow. And just because there is one member of the family that is using alcohol, he's the only one who can be stealing from you. While it is your son who is stealing, you cannot admit that your son or your daughter can steal. So addressing this issue properly in high school and in schools, that stealing did not begin in school. So the best thing we can do is to advise our children and to ensure that the stealing did not begin home. What are we doing to ensure that our children are stealing? Are we giving them enough so that they don't go and steal from the others? Are we giving them enough uniform so that, are we teaching them the basics of cleaning clothes so that we don't have people with uniform which are enough, but because they don't want to wash, they want to pick from the hanging line? You know what I'm talking about? They are picking uniform, their fellow students' uniform, classmates and schoolmates from the hanging line just because they don't want to wash theirs. Stealing in schools began back home. Do your due diligence and check. When the child comes with that uniform which is labeled another admission number, what do you tell them? When a child comes with a pen which you know you have not bought, what do you tell them? I'm going to address this in another video. Drop a comment and let me know what you think. Do you think stealing began in school or back home? Check what your child is holding which does not belong to him or her. Okay, before you start beating me, I am not entertaining stealing in schools. I am not entertaining stealing in colleges and especially in the boarding. All I am saying is that stealing is wrong. And if you haven't watched the other video, this is a continuation of the other video. If you haven't watched that video, please watch and see where we started from before you start beating me. I'm not encouraging the stealing that takes place in schools. But I have seen even in Facebook, in the Twitter, wherever, handled people complaining about their kids coming in home with no shoes. But you, whose child, who your child took somebody's shoes, came with it to school, home. Did you ask them where the shoe came from? You know very well you never bought that shoe. You know very well you never bought that pen. You know very well you never bought that book. You know very well that is not his or her uniform or her property. Are you asking them where they come from? Are you asking them who gave them? They are telling you that they borrowed. Like, I'll give a very good example of my daughter coming with a scrunchie. That is a hairband. And she told me that they had gone for swimming and the hairband, I could tell that I've not bought that hairband. And so she tells me that she had borrowed that hairband. And then I see her with it. When you borrow me a pen, I don't expect you to come with it back home tomorrow. Because you're given, you did never returned, you came back with it, you came with it home, for those who are day scholars. And then tomorrow I don't expect you to come with it unless you have refused with it or you have stolen. And so I saw that hairband for 3 days and I'm like, you said she had given you when you had gone for swimming because yours had gotten water. How comes you have not returned it? Up to date, I can still see that hairband and I want that hairband to go back to school, and I have bought her own. So how often do we check what our children, for those who are day scholars, what our children, because that is where the stealing case started. They started when they were in primary. They started back home, picking things from school and coming back home with them. And you don't ask. And even if you ask, you don't follow it up. And so they graduate to picking, and they tell you they have not stolen. Another teenager told me that they were keeping it well because the owners were not keeping them well. And so that stealing is they are now calling it, we are storing them for them. We are storing those items for them because they are careless. So ask your children whenever they come with something which does not belong to that house. Unless you tell me you are an absent parent, so you don't know what you bought, you don't know what you see, because you don't even see what they are wearing, what they are carrying, and what they bring home. Stealing in school is wrong. I categorically refuse it, but they did not learn stealing in school. They learned from somewhere, and that somewhere is not school. What do you think? Drop a comment and let's discuss about it. Thank you for joining me.